So we'll start playing Soissons. Always have to go into, for whatever reason, the choice of dice for a game. Here, I wasn't really sure what I would pick. These are what I have down here. I don't really like these kind of dice, mainly because the paint job on them is kind of crappy, and it makes me think that they're not balanced or something, but I'm sure they're fine. Okay, so we're going to deal with the surprise turn here, but we do have to worry about this. So the artillery availability. We look these suckers up, and we're going to have 3 allied medium artillery. I say allied, but... and 2 heavy artillery, and an air point to begin the turn, as per up here. Now, for the Germans, we have 1 medium, and that's it, and we have to roll a die for that, which may be in here. Yeah. Okay, so this will be available in the AM, but it may not actually be because of the surprise rolls. I wanted to roll the die anyway, because whatever, because I don't want to look up a rule. That'll be harder. Okay. All the Entente points are available. All right. The next thing we hit is the assignment. Is there anything I needed to reposition? I think I was okay. Okay, so now it's bombardment phase, and I probably want to use my firepower at this point. Do I want to save any of it for the PM turn? Because, oh, you know what I wanted to do? I wanted to consider whether or not, because remember, terrain doesn't matter on this. I think, oh, that had to be there. Do I want the armor? I think I want this setup, and we'll put the armor here too. So that'll give me an additional bonus. Okay. That's it's a hard decision as to, you know, do I want to just overwhelm the enemy right away as much as possible, or do I want to keep a point in reserve for the PM turn, because I'm not going to have anything in the PM turn if I hold off on it. Well, let's take a look at what we want. Since I can't use a tank here, I'm going to drop a point from this artillery unit. Remember, it ranges, I think, 5. Here, I got tanks there. Got tanks there. I want to drop one here. Got tanks there. Got no tank there. This, again, terrain doesn't matter, but I definitely want to drop one here. Still haven't made my decision as to, I have additional points that I can throw in. Tanks. No tank here. And my artillery's down there. I'm going to use the hardest, the artillery that's the hardest to position first, and then decide, do I need others? I got no tanks here. That'll be against this unit, I guess. I'll drop another one here. I'll use a medium artillery for that because I'm within range of the guns. So that's that. Now, do I want to use up more of my firepower? I could also increase the amount of firepower I have, right? I don't really think I want to do that. I feel like I want to advance on a broad basis. There's no tank here. That seems like a good reason to use another medium artillery there. Oh, I'm really torn on the, is there somewhere else that I feel like, I'm opening up a big gap here. Let's make sure that works. Let's drop one more medium artillery into there, and we'll, I don't know. All right, this is my biggest turn for artillery. See, but the problem is there's pieces that I'm going to be leaving holes for. The biggest points are over here, the deepest away. That's where I'd actually like the axis of my advance to be going, even though, see, I'd have to use two artillery there to really just break this open, whereas over here maybe I could break the center down by attacking with more artillery there. Of course, I'm ignoring this, but that was sort of my setup by design, I guess. Huh. Why is this guy all by himself? I guess because I filled this entire area. I don't know. I could have put more power into that attack, couldn't I? Maybe, maybe not. There's the divisional, yeah. The problem is the divisional break, or the core break, is up there. This looks like it's a different color. Do I want to drop more firepower? I'm just, I feel like keeping an air support and an artillery is not a bad idea. I feel like keeping three of them maybe overkill, and I'd really like to send the Germans reeling back as hard as possible. I'm going to drop one here. Oops. I got more of these that I sorted incorrectly. Why is this important? It's not really at this point, but later in the game, it may be important to be able to distinguish them a little bit more easily. The colors are so similar, that's the problem. All right, we're going to call that enough. So that's the first bombardment declaration. Now, non-phasing player can declare and resolve artillery barrages, but somewhere it says the Germans cannot, Germans cannot use defensive artillery barrage in this segment for the assault. So we're going to be doing a preliminary bombardment and an assault, and it kind of probably doesn't matter too much what order I take. So I'll take this attack here. First I drop a bombardment. Where did I hide the dice? There we go. I like to have 2 dice in my hand. So let's look at the modifiers. I'm adjacent to a prepare marker, that's +1. And yeah, you know, 1 point is not a lot. Maybe I don't want to. Maybe I don't want to spread out my artillery fire this much. Whew. Have to go through this all again if that's the case. But maybe I want to focus more on making sure I get hits on things. So 1 point is going to give me a 50-50 chance of getting some kind of disorder effect on the enemy. 2 points would give me an almost guaranteed 5 out of 6 chance of that, plus the chance of getting hits. I'll leave it spread out as it is and let the luck do what it does. All right, so this one down here, I'm at +1. I get a 4-5. That's going to be a D, parentheses D if it was night phase. That's going to disrupt, and there's a maximum on this. So that'll hit there. That's going to give me a plus to my attack roll, but again, I'm spreading this out, so I'm not going to get really big hits on units. Why am I doing this with a tank here? I guess this is the one I did the extra on, but that's what doesn't make sense. I've got it in kind of the wrong order. Oh well. Let's do the attack here, also at +1. 5, 6, that's a big D. A big D is by 1 level, but not lower than disorganized. Oh, I'm sorry. This isn't disorganized. This is, let's make sure I get a German counter. This is reforming. Now, reforming may not be such a great thing. Defender, yeah, reforming gives you the same +1, so that's fine. So this was 1 hit, not lower than disorganized on this one. So he actually flips fully over. And I'll pull away to roll the rest of these because you kind of see how it works. I've gotten lucky so far, but I think I'm doing this in the wrong order. The assault is 1 block, which means I take care of it individually per unit. So let's take, we'll do this attack and then this attack, and then I'll be taking care of them bombardment and attack after that. It doesn't make too much difference. So I've got a 10-3 here. Where did I hide my dice? Puts me on 3-1. And no terrain modifiers. Let's take a look at these. Lead attackers. Okay, we compare combativeness. We're going to get a +1 off the combined combatness. We got no tanks. We got no terrain. We're up to +2 for reforming. That gets me a 4. I can pick my X. Okay. Now we take a look at this. Attackers' losses are reduced if all defenders are remnants. They're not. Attacker strength is 12 or more and defender strength is 6 or more. That's not the case. There's going to be a mandatory 2-hex retreat. He's probably going to take another hex of retreat. So the question is, do I want to take 2 hits on this to bust the shit out of it? That'll increase my total odds. But given that I've got this flank to worry about, I'm actually going to set X equal to 1. All right. So X equal 1 means I take a -1 on this unit. X equal 1 here, he's going to take an extra retreat. So I fall back. Ooh, these things are too close to the front, I'm afraid. Definite screw up. I fall back 2 mandatory plus 1 more free. Did I really want to do that? I don't know. It's the, do I want casualties or do I want to fall back? Well, I'm causing hits on the enemy there. Now, we leave the prepared marker on there because that will change the movement values for those units. Now, on the surprise turn, it actually increases them. Now, we'll go up to this one, and let's see what we got here. I got 10 with +2 for tanks, so it's 10 to 3. Combativeness gives me a +1. Okay. So combativeness is +1. Tank group brings me to +3. There's not terrain there. The unit is disorganized, so that brings it to +4 on the 3 to 1. I get a 10. That's going to be 1 to a lot of hurt. Okay. So my attacking unit gets a -1. Now that casualty does not hit the tanks themselves. Disorders do, I believe. 2 hits. I'll take one of those. Oh, is he right? 1, 2, 3, yeah. I'll take one of those hits on me. I got a retreat marker on here. I don't know. I can't stand something being upside down. Okay. 2 hits, a level of disorder beyond that, which is going to be a shock level. Right? Just 1 level for a capital D, I think. I took my hit, and now I'm going to have to retreat 5 hexes. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And again, it's straight back. I don't know what happens. Well, I guess if you're not within 4 of these, I mean, you're just not going to be forced into that big a retreat. And the mandatory retreats only happen at this point. Okay, so that was the attack here. Now we'll do an entire one together, and then I'll come back and show the full picture because, you know, this is just a purely mechanical treatment. All right, so artillery's hitting there. I'm adjacent, it's +1. No terrain. Oh, there is terrain. Maybe I shouldn't be bombing terrain, huh? Terrain is a okay, is a ravine, so that's -1. First turn, let me make sure terrain does affect for something. Terrain, it applies to bombardment. Yeah, that was probably unwise. Okay, so only if 5 or 6 has an impact. It does. I end up disrupting the unit, but not like that. I end up dropping it down to where did I find the reform markers? No, they're on the back of shocks as well. Okay. I drop it to there. That goes here. I bring it to the attack. We're at 3 to 1. Again, +1 for combativeness. No tanks. The terrain doesn't matter. +2 for being disorganized. That gets me a 4. Okay, that's X's again. Here again, I've got another unit I got to deal with, so I'm only going to take a 1 hit on myself, which means that these guys can escape casualty entirely and fall back 3 hexes. I got to remember those retreat markers I got to put on. Got one here. Got one here. I really wish these... So I'm torn with these things. The word is, I want it facing me, but I want the arrows facing, the direction it's going. Now, why do I want the word facing me? That's a good question. If I were playing opposed, I'd have everything facing myself, so I think it works fine. I'm just, the solo player who doesn't like what's going on. All right, so I'm up here. It's time for me to swap batteries, and I'll come back and give a report on what the rest of the line looks like. But we've sent them reeling back here. This artillery, geez, man. Yeah, putting the artillery that close to the line was probably a mistake. But I'm probably making mistakes by spreading out my firepower and all that. So, it is kind of a learning game. Obviously, it's my first time playing it, but and I'd rather not try to correct my tactical misunderstandings of how it's gonna work out, just because I'm probably gonna make more all throughout the game. Way down the line so far in this initial offensive or initial assault. Some of the units are different from others. So these are the quality British units with a 14 strength. That gets me over on the 4-to-1 table. This German unit here had a 2-star. I took 2 hits on it. The result, I chose the 2 hits in most places where I could, because I want to reduce their overall strength. Here's the thing. If I'm facing the same unit, if I've got like a 10 strength unit and each unit takes, say, 1 hit or 1-0, then I've got like still that 3-to-1. But if I take 2 hits and it's 2-1 because of the extra retreat, it'll end up being 8-2, which is 4-to-1, which is better. So, causing more losses to the Germans seems more efficient in general. But yeah, this was a 2-star unit. It chose to take the -2 losses so that I could stick in the ravine. Otherwise, I'd have flung back here. So I'm trading off my losses for strength there. I caught myself cheating with a tank here. This is a ravine space. It's really hard to see. But yeah, the way I did my setup, I kind of fucked up with that. I don't know how to repair that because I've done all my attacks already except for this one, and I certainly don't want to juggle that around. So I think I'm just going to pretend it didn't happen. But yeah. It's kind of fair because I'm making attacks with bombardments that, like, I'm getting penalized on the bombardment because of terrain. Again, not really paying attention with the setup, etc. So I made enough errors on the Entente side that I feel like that the overall effect is probably going to neutralize itself out. This is so common for me with playing. So the tanks couldn't have set up here. They would have been able to, if they were in here, attack into there. They won't be able to move into there, though. So, like, if there had been a road going this way or something, this would have been legitimate. I just don't know. So now I've got 2 attacking units. They are of the same command. That's important. So I've got 20-3. That's going to be like 6-1. Which one do I want to make lead? I think I'll make this guy the lead. Don't have to worry about any of the terrain, the rivers, or anything. But I got no pluses whatsoever. Just way on this chart, though. A 3 on that chart, XX, D3, not, getting lots of tanks and stuff is equivalent to getting the big modifier, I guess. There's the overall results. I'm finding it kind of hard. You may have noticed on the last thing I had this exposed. That's not the correct thing. There should have been a retreat marker on top of it as well. I'm having a hard time remembering to put, multiple counters on top just to indicate the losses that were taken. But that was the swing forward. It's going to take some getting used to. That was my assault. First non-phasing voluntary fallback. Now remember, if I do this, this counts as a retreat, which could be problematic. On the other hand, at least I think that's the case. Let's see, 13.1, 13.3. Nice referencing. There's definitely that. Fallback effects, yeah, they'll get an increase on the retreat marker. So trying to line these things up, oh, that's not so hot. Of course, I'm also going to lose my artillery here if I'm not careful. So, gosh, you know, I'll pull this one back. You know, I mean, the artillery is not going to be able to do anything, so I might as well make my choices rather than be forced into them. This one's going to fall back as well. 1, 2, 3, that's great. Is that where I want to be? Do I want to be that close to the enemy? I don't know. But now comes the question of stuff like this. Do I want to pull these things back or force the Entente to waste effort on isolating them and forcing them back? I don't know. You know, that kind of thinking is usually very clear in your normal game. You don't have that kind of choice. You're like, oh, my line's not good, I need to fall back. But is it significantly different to make the enemy actually move forward and maybe expend their movement in ways that will push me and force me to fall back, as opposed to this other side of things, which is, you know, gosh, I know I can't sustain this, I need to retreat. Either way, though, it's straight back. You know, it's not going to make a difference on that. And it's not like I'm going to lose the units, so I think I'm going to leave them there and force the Entente to make the movement that will force those units back. But that may be a mistake. I'm just, you know, spitballing what I'm planning on doing there. Now we're on maneuver. Yeah, we get no special assault. I'm going to take a little break here because I feel overwhelmed by what I just did, to tell you the truth. I'll get used to it, but it is a very, very different system, and I'm afraid of burning out my brain by thinking too long. I don't know. So now we're in the maneuver phase for the Entente, and we're going to have 8 movement points instead of 4 for their units with the prepared markers on them. The 2 units that don't have those have, they don't tell you here, but I believe they say it here, and I think it's 6. Yeah, 6 for good order, 3 for the 1 reforming unit. Movement itself becomes kind of complicated because now there's the choice of what do I want to do in terms of trying to force units back. Do I want to just push forward and keep pounding the units that I'm hitting or that I've already hit? Or do I want to do something else? You know? Now, I won't have the surprise effects anymore, so the town is kind of a painful thing, but I kind of have to hit things. Regular movement is 1 movement point per. It's going to cost me, I think, 4 to put the prepared marker on it. Unfortunately, we have a terrain effects chart, but we don't have a movement point costs chart, which is something we need there at least, but we have it here. We have this that tells me the movement point allowances, and it gives me the attack order costs. So this piece, which, you know, would be useful to have those included in here. There's a lot of space for the terrain key and everything. That could have probably been smaller, but I don't know. So yeah, it's 4 points to switch over to the major attacks, which means I could push up to here. Of course, this has got multiple terrain types in it, and I believe they stack, except for the streams in the middle of gullies. I could also try to cut things off. I don't know if that's a great idea. I mean, I'm kind of going to get the cutoff just by pushing forward and forward and forward, which might be sufficient. I'll go with that it is. See, that's -4 to combine a town and a ravine. Let me make sure that those are cumulative. That seems extreme, which may mean that I have to avoid that and try to go around it somehow, and then force things otherwise. It's very clear it's not cumulative, although woods may be cumulative with other things if there's any place that includes both. I see a ravine in a woods here, so we got defending in woods and defending behind a stream or in a village or ravine, maximum -2. I find that a little disturbing, that this has both a ravine and a woods, but as does this, but that may be particularly bothersome. Still, -2 is pretty big. What am I facing here? I'm facing a unit that's already strength, that's at full strength. So that may not be such a good idea anyhow, unless I can get multiple units there. And unfortunately, I have tanks here, which I can't move to another unit right now, and wouldn't be effective against the ravine. Of course, they wouldn't be effective against this ravine either, but they would be effective here. So let's get these guys moving first. So I got 8 movement points. This goes away. Leave this here. Oh shit, I'm in another damn ravine. Damn it. I couldn't have been there again. Again, it's that setup problem of like, I wasn't able to set up the way I did. It's hard to see the ravines when there's units on top of them, is kind of the issue. So, like before, screw it. These different divisions, I have to worry if they are. They are not, which means I can keep my frontage situation. But if I move into the zone there, I've screwed myself out of that space. So 2, 3, I guess. I'll tilt this so that I know that I moved it. That's 3. I drop a prepared marker. Do I want a prepared marker? Yeah, because this unit is full strength, I guess. Again, though, I could do the attacks there. You know what? I'm not sure what I want to do at all. Test out other ways of playing with this system. Let's look at this unit. He's going to have 8 movement points. If he moves here 1, 2, okay. Now my zone of influence is out to here, not here, but here. 2, 3, I've just cut everybody off. Do I want to do that? Again, it's the, hey, you know, I don't know. So I fall back and I think again. This is a problem I have with a lot of operational games, and there's a very geometric feel to this kind of. Do I want to force? So there's two issues. There's a geometric feel to how do I want to force units out of where they are, and that's hitting towards a weak spot for me in terms of being able to cope with. But then there's also not only is it a geometric situation that's going to be problematic, but then there's I don't know if I want these units to withdraw or not, right? So let's look again at what I was looking at. 1, 2, 3. There's a problem now. I've reached here. I'm at 3. Maybe I set up an assault. And this guy, both units are now in trouble. So both units would have to withdraw at this point. Now, I can withdraw without worrying about zone of control. You're allowed to fling yourself back through zones of control. I just can't stop here, and I want to go there. Is that useful to me? I don't know. And that's the thing that's keeping me here is, is it more important for me to just keep plowing forward and grabbing these cities or towns or whatever? Or is it more valuable for me to get units flinging back? I face a similar kind of problem here where luckily I set up because I could see this ravine because it's the defender's ravine, not one running along the front line that I didn't even notice. And then whatever the other one was, I was just kind of sitting in somewhere. Down here, I guess. No, that's not a tank. Where's the one with a tank? This is the one with a tank in it. Yeah. I guess that's the only one. I thought there were two that I fucked up. I don't know. Man. Definitely finding this difficult. Okay, so these guys could move into there. There's no road movement or anything except, I guess, for the entering units. So that would cost me 2, 4. And now I have not closed him off yet. If I go to here for 6, though, that makes him run away, which may be for the best, but may not. If I come out this way, 2... Yeah, it's 2 either way. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I could make a 1-point attack against this unit on this thingy, which if only that unit attacked, it's an 8 to 2 is 4 to 1 on there. That doesn't look like it's going to really send him flying back, right? Although who knows, because he's reforming, which gives me a +1. I said it was 4 to 1. +1 probably doesn't do shit. And then this guy could come up. Now he doesn't have 8. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and stop there. That's not terribly useful. Or I can move forward and, set myself up with a prepared attack for an assault next turn that he's probably going to fall away from. Ah, gosh. I mean, I'm just in this. I don't fucking know what I'm doing. God damn. I think the unprepared attacks are a really bad idea, which means I'm not going to use my artillery capabilities on the unprepared attacks, but it means that I have stuff for PM. So what about here? There appears to be maybe a stream here, which is going to cost me 2 movement points when crossing an unbridge, regardless of other terrain in Hex. Okay. But this, yeah, this would also be 2, right? Yeah. So, I don't know. I've got a lot of units up there. Wow. This kind of thinking is not my my forte. I feel like I'm playing an abstract game at this point, really, in a lot of ways, because of the strangeness of the withdrawal, being able to force withdrawals and whatnot, and not being sure I want to do that. On the other hand, let's say I just charge forward here and don't force the withdrawal. Then there's the possibility that the Germans force a withdrawal on me. So screw it, we're going to force the withdrawal. 1, 2, 3. We force the withdrawal. We've used 3 of our 8 movement points. 1, 2, 3. I can go as many as I like. 4. I follow the Ein. 1, 2, 3. And I put the retreats on them. Now let's put these guys in a position. I'm going to have trouble hitting that thing. But these are purples, so they could maybe come out. But I've got to force this back. So I think I'll move there and drop my prepared on them. And this is moved. Okay. I moved a piece. All right, let's get this guy moving next. 1, 2. Not allowed. Units are too big to run over each other, which means I need to move the tanks first. Okay. I'm in a cheating position here, but it's all I know how to do at this point. So 1. Have I cut this off? That's there and there. He's just gotten cut off. So he has to fall back anyway. 1, 2. Kind of afraid to leave him out in the open. I'm not going to have a movement phase. I'll have a further withdrawal phase, though. I think. I don't know where I am. I'm here. I get a voluntary fallback there, but I could get more retreats that way. So I will just retreat to the woods here. That's kind of as far as I get to go. Okay, so he's moved 1. He's the tank units. 2, I guess 3 there, and I'll drop his prepared on him. And he's there. The artillery, well, I don't remember if there was a range on being in command. I think there was. So we take a look for where that is. It's not listed here in a little chart. I'm not seeing it anywhere else right away, so I'll look for it in the rules. 4 hexes to the parent unit. So 1, 2, 3, 4. So moving here, I'll keep this command in command, and we're okay with that. The rest of this division is up here. Now I think So here's the question. Do I want to push this way? I'm a little worried about there being a hole there. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, that's not very good. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to drop my prepared, I think, there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Yeah, because otherwise I won't get a prepared attack there. And again, I don't think the hasty attacks look very valuable, but I've got a problem. I've got a hole here that conceivably the Germans could take advantage of. But they've got a retreat marker, so they're not going to be able to advance. So I think I'm good there. Now we look at this next division here, which is just these units. Now the reforming unit only gets like 3 movement points total, so that's not going to be terribly helpful. We got tanks here, so we can't go into there, and we don't have tanks here. Whoops. So 3, 4. This is still controlled by the enemy, but we can get around that by marching around it. So let's get those tanks moving. 1, 2, 3, 4. At this point I could drop a prepared marker. That's not going to help me too much. This is pretty beat up. So I will go 5, 6, and this either costs 1 or 2 to put this into place, and I'll try a hasty attack there. I don't know if that's going to help. That gets me this unit, which would not have to do a hasty attack, but if I put it in here, I can't throw it in because it would be adjacent to another unit. So one, 2, 3, 4, and again, the Germans have retreated too far. How beat up are these? Five, 6, 7. We'll try to push there. These guys, I'll just move them forward, I guess. I might as well move them here. These things only have 3 movement points. So that's 1, 2, 3, and they're just done. And I'm fucking beat already. So I'm going to put this marker here and think about a break. I mean, this has been an excruciating exercise so far in the movement. I don't know if the game's going to continue that way. The kind of effort reminds me of in some of those much, much older games, you know, trying to get your odds charts balanced and everything. I don't feel like I'm trying to necessarily get those numbers way up there the way, you know, what I'm thinking here is things like Stalingrad or Winter War. I like Winter War a lot, but in terms of, wow, those defensive numbers are really high in Winter War. And it is really painful to figure out what you're doing. Now here, I feel like, well, I'm facing such a different system that I really have to work hard to figure out what I'm getting. And plus, I'm so fucking embarrassed about where I had tanks parked illegally in the initial setup that's killing me. Also, my battery's dying, so it's not a bad time for me to take a break. I was thinking about trying to go down to the river today. I'm having trouble staying awake long enough. Normally, my thought was, well, you know, I've been staying awake until noon yesterday, and the day before that it was like 11 a.m. If I can maybe get to that level, 11 or noon, and walk down to the river. It'll be hot by then, supposedly. It's staying pretty cool right now. Not a lot of sun out there. And I'm just kind of like, yeah, but it's kind of dark out. And, I don't know. It's like, which direction do I go in? Do I fall asleep kind of now and try to rectify my sleep schedule so that by Friday I'm getting up at a reasonable hour? Like last time I went, and last week as well, which I didn't go, it was like 5 p.m. when I woke up, and that's like, oh look, I have time to eat and leave, or I don't know. Anyway, I don't know why I'm babbling about this crap, except I always do. So I completed the remainder of the movement here. And you can see I've got some prepared attacks. I got one here I may or may not make because, well, I could have actually probably done a non-prepared attack. Who knows? I would have been at the 6-1, but there are penalties for the... there's going to be a -2 for the combat check there, because it's only in the assault phase that I get that bonus on the first turn. So that doesn't, look terribly good. So I figure the prepared attack at 6-1 with -2 looks a lot better, and I could also get some additional advantages through bombardment or whatever. I don't know how much whatever there is. Let me check the combativeness for these. Yeah. Okay. I hope I don't have any units. See, now that's a this is a -2 on one unit. That's not good. That's a remnant, I think. Right? I think it is. Let me check. And I'm going to have to look through all the German units. If I had retreated further, I would be here, and that would have been bad. The terrain is really helping me there, so I think I need that, but I have to look for the remnant units and then look up what that means. So remnants reduced by 1, yeah, that would be a remnant unit. I'm going to have a place to keep destroyed German regiments. I guess I'll just keep them over here, but it's going to be kind of hard to... There's no space to keep destroyed units. I had 2 regiments that I chose to drop down to 1 strength point for their terrain effects that I have to keep in mind. Now, let's look back here and see what's going on. So now it's the second non-phasing voluntary fallback, where there's no attack prepared here, so I feel okay here. I don't know if I'm happy with this, though, which is I'm 2 strength points, reforming, but I'm facing 10, so that's going to be like 5-1. But again, that table is not all that good. However, there's artillery that could be thrown in that could kind of blow a hole in that front, and that's kind of problematic. The prepared attacks, well, when am I going to get a chance to withdraw again? Do I want to take that? If I do take it, it allows the Entente to move forward a hex, so I kind of don't want to do that. Here, if I take another retreat on this, it'll be a shock point, and he'll be able to advance for what that's worth. Or do I want to let him attack me? He's got some big pluses there with those tanks. Let's look. So big pluses. Probably not a good situation, but on the other hand, that shock is not a good situation either. So remember, if I go to shock, That's another +1 on the defense. I'm going to take this retreat and grab a shock there, I guess. That's a 1-point shock. It's kind of hard to see them, but I think all the fronts are 1 point. So this is a 2-point unit also, facing 12. That'll be a 6-1. But there's no good terrain to withdraw into. I don't know. This guy, I'm happy leaving him there. He's facing prepareds, so I get more options. This guy obviously is fine. I could retreat my artillery further away. That isn't really something that'll hurt me, so I'll do that because I don't like where he is. These guys are fine. These guys are happy, very happy indeed. So yeah, I think I'll leave it at that. Although this could be somewhat problematic, and we'll see. Second bombardment declaration. All right, I've got an attack against this thing, and that's 2 strength points. You know, I'm not going to really get a big bonus off bombarding, am I? I don't have a prepared marker there. So if I bombed with a 1, I'd be looking at a 5 or a 6 to do anything at all. And those are just going to give me advantages on the points. So I think I hold off on that. What about here? I don't think this is any better. Again, using the bombardment rolls, it's just, I'd have to use up so much of my firepower, and that's firepower that I kind of need for the PM turn. So I'll hold. Germans are allowed to bombard at this point. I have a medium artillery. Now, I could do a bombardment on this and weaken it. Or on this, although that's not in clear terrain. But that is my only artillery piece that I have available, because my field artillery, or my core artillery, has already retreated and is out of points. I think I'm willing to trust my chances on this. I have other units kind of defending there, so I think I'm okay. I think I'll not do a second bombardment. So now we go to the low intensity attacks. We don't know how these are going to work, but we have, let's do this one here, 10 to 2. That's going to be a 5-1 attack over here. 5-1. Hey, there's no 5-1. I hope we're in command. This didn't move, did it? I don't think it did. Which means I'm in command, which is important. Otherwise I'd be at half strength and I would just not make the attack. So what are my DRMs here? Well, it's a reforming unit, so I have a +1 on it. Well, let's see what that does. Looks like the chart's not too bad. That's not a good result. So I get a D, which is going to throw me into the reform status. Now, I have to look up whether or not I just lose this at this point. I know I'm going to lose it soon. Here is victorious attacking markers units retain their low int improved. It doesn't feel victorious, but I don't know. After all attacks, remove those from units that did not attack or whose targeted hex was not vacated. I'm going to remove this because it's not doing anything at this point, and it seems like a good time to do so. So that wasn't terribly effective. This stays here because I get an advance. This one, I've got 12 to 2. That's going to put me at 6 to 1. No bombardments were programmed by either person. 6 to 1 at +1 quality and +1 for the disruption. So 6 to 1 at +2. That gets me a 4. That's a 0D on the defending unit. Now, I'm not forced to retreat or anything. What I take is an additional disruption, which does not throw me to shock. I mean, it does throw me to shock, but that's not a remnant there. So we'll put this here. And I think I was, again, not successful because I didn't clear the hex. So I'll lose that. And those are my only quick attacks I was doing. So now, advance. Units with an attack marker that's not in an enemy zone of control can make an advance into either where the low marker is pointing, or if it's a prepared assault that I was retreated away from, I can just move forward from that. I will, who's this? Again, the colors are, I wish there was more distinguishment on the marker colors. I'm finding it hard to tell. I mean, they look clear enough there, I guess. I don't know. I'm just a grumpy old man. So I've got one advance I can make. I don't get a prepared attack marker for this, but if I put it here, it could actually throw into that combat. Are these the same command? I don't know. I think so. I think these are not, which is more problematic. 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm not going to be in, those guys are not going to be able to be in supply, which means that this setup was not particularly useful. And I will not be able to remember that, or not in command. Whatever supply is something different. So, gosh. I mean, I don't think there's any harm to doing this, but I also don't think I'll be able to attack. Let's take a look. This will be good order units, not subordinated to the coordinating headquarters and not in command. So good order, not in... This combination goes down to the any other situation. There's a more complete chart on the other thing, which means if this is the attack, these guys are just not going to be able to help at all. On the other hand, being here doesn't really do me any good either. So I don't know what I want to fucking do. I'll move here. I think it provides me with a stronger position. Those are the advances. I wouldn't lose any prepared markers if I had them. Phasing player removes all his retreat markers. Adjust the operations marker on the turn track. I don't know what that means. Adjust the operations marker on the turn track. There. If the German operations has been... Okay, so now I kind of wish this thing had two sides, given that it's double printed anyway, that showed the current player turn. That's going to put me on the German side of the turn. And I am tired and thinking about this being a good place to break. But let's go on. There's no reinforcements for the Germans, no tanks, obviously. Bombardment, we're not doing anything. We're not doing any assaults. First non-phasing voluntary fallback. Is there anywhere where the Entente is like, oh shit, we're in trouble? The answer is really no, because all the German units have been forced to retreat. So, all units except retreated get to move. Well, again, everything's retreated except these guys. Those guys are part of the corps that's down here. I don't know where the division is, though. Those are part of it. This is, I think, part of it. This is where the division is. So we got kind of a line running here. And that doesn't make sense. Oh, I got to worry about divisional? No. No. The divisional breakups are just for the setup, I think. Like, I don't have to keep divisions corresponding. Not that there are divisional replacements for them. Now, these forces are what's allowed to move. They're going to have 6 movement points each. And let me see if I can figure out places where I want to kind of fill in the gaps with them. The only things I could defend were up here. I put 2 units here into Villers-Hallon. I'm going to just try to make that a strong holding. This is where the danger really is, and this is the unit that's got a prepared assault against it that's in real danger up there. Back here, it looks like the terrain's going to get ugly and everything, and we're going to get hit there. So that was maneuver. Second player doesn't want to fall back. Retreat markers are hard to recover from. There are no low-intensity attacks declared. I'm not going to bombard at this point. It's better for me to save it for my attacks. And that means we actually do make it to here. Now, I got to look. There was a phasing player removes all his retreat markers, so all the German retreat markers are going to come off. Now, we have units that are reforming. Of course, they have backup forces right here, but elsewhere, you know, we have units that are reforming. It's kind of weird. It's like a half step between, you know, disorganized and fresh, but it has all the effects of disorganized for the defender. I don't remember. I think the attacker maybe can't attack when they're disorganized, but I think they can. I think they just can't attack when they're shocked or worse. But anyway, it's not like the Germans are launching any attacks. So we made it through the AM turn. I want to make it through the first day on this video. And yeah, we're in a lot of detail, but I'm just going to remove all those retreat markers and, well, maybe go to sleep. Done that, I actually want to make an observation about this guy. So this is a slightly, you know, disorganized, whatever, reforming German unit that, hey, maybe I would have wanted to fall back here or here for better defensive terrain. And it's a good answer, but had I done that, I would be fully disorganized, which might not have been that bad, and these prepared guys would have been able to pull up. You know, when would I have done that? See, I'm not allowed to voluntarily fall back on my own turn is the problem. So I would have had to choose this earlier. Given that the Entente was able to kind of cheat, I'm going to pull here, disorganize, back in. It's only a -1, less the lead attacker is attacking across a stream. Well, because the stream's bigger. I don't know. See, I'm afraid of these prepared units, and now the prepared could have moved up a hex if that's the case. So if I fall back all the way to here, the prepared attacks are no longer engaged. And I'm going to do that instead. Yes, I'm cheating, but again, I'm trying to get a view of this system because it is exceedingly different from anything that I'm used to. And I think giving up that space made sense. I could have actually fallen back to here instead if I thought that was more valuable, because when you do a withdrawal, the last hex of it, the last hex of it would have been, but then I'd have a prepared attack set up against that, and that could go badly. So the fact that these prepared attacks have found nothing to attack, and this was changed back in the Allied second non-phasing voluntary fallback, before any attacks were made on the low intensity, but it really has very little to do with any of that. Had this broken through worse, that would make it even better. Or had this broken through, had these attacks broken through, that would have made it even more impressive or more imperative to fall back. Since they didn't, I feel like, I should have done that anyway. All right. After a couple hours of sleep, I'm back at it. I don't know what this is all going to mean. It doesn't feel as hot today, but it's getting up there. It's just that inside the house it's not warm because the sun didn't bake me in the morning the way it usually does. Excuse me. Although it does look rather gray out, it's not that it's not that cloudy out, so I don't know. So starting the PM turn, I flipped over the points that I have for fire, and no reinforcements. On group assignment, I moved a couple of tanks to adjacent units under the same command. I would have liked to have moved this one. The reason is what I've seen across the board with the ones I did, which is, hey, I've got excuse me, a ravine or whatever it is right in front of me, and this unit doesn't. Unfortunately, they're different commands, so I can't. But for example, here I shifted it, even though, hey, I don't know, maybe I would rather press harder here. Yeah, but I want to make sure that I have a clear way in front of me. So there were a couple of cases of that. And now I have to decide where I'm going to want to drop my bombardment points. Now, I have 2 remaining bombardment points for the Entente, and I want to use them, I'm not counting on any kind of attack coming back from the Germans. Both here. And I come down to section 8.4, the assault, as the next thing. And this is where things get kind of tricky in terms of, hey, what are they, how should I be resolving these combats? Because last turn, I resolved each combat completely, but I'm not sure that's correct. Because it starts off with non-phasing player may declare and resolve artillery barrages on hexes adjacent to, which seems different from anything to do with assaulting. And then it says each assault is resolved one at a time, preliminary bombardment, assault, retreat. I think this is actually kind of, should have 2 sections there. One for the preliminary bombardment deployment and usage, and 1 for the assaults. Now, there aren't a lot of assaults here for the Germans to react to that are in place, because a lot of the prepared units aren't really there. So kind of the question is, well, where do I want to drop my assault markers and or my bombardments? Here, the Entente got themselves into kind of a sticky mess that they really shouldn't have. They should have prepared themselves so that they could move against this. This is like a 3-2 attack or something. I'm going to let them do that. These guys I ran away from, so they're no problem. These guys don't have prepared markers. Here's an attack that looks like it's going to happen, but 1, 2, 3, 4. Well, okay. So there's 2 ways I could do this, but if this is the commanding unit, which I think I want it to be, then this guy's out of supply and can't join in. If this guy's the lead unit, I'm not sure I'm allowed to do that, actually. That's the first thing. But then I'd be able to bring these guys in at half strength, because they'd be this line. And these guys would be out of command, which would also be half strength, which works out about the same, except I'm not sure that I can choose the out of command unit. There might be a precedence that requires that. This attack looks pretty good. It's 8-1 prepared, but there is a terrain advantage, and maybe I wanted to blast that to get it out of the way, but a remnant is pretty weak. This attack here is where the bombardment was intended. There's so much reinforcement there that maybe that's not going to be very easy going. A hit here with a disruption effect could lead to having the strength of the enemy, which would go down to a 4-1, which is still not good. The remnant's still going to probably get blown away. So I think what I'm going to do is, first of all, take the right color for this. I think I'm going to drop my bombardment on one of these. And they both have tanks. So which one's more? I think I want to hit this one. And we'll take care of that first. And that's a standalone attack. I do not have a friendly prepare marker. The rules state differently in at least one place, but I'm not going to give them the +1 because of that. So a 5 or a 6 hits, and both sides fired all their artillery. Okay. So there was no effect there on the defensive, and now I'll swing through the attacks, and I might choose not to make them. For example, this one I probably don't want to make, but this one I'm going to make. The attacker's artillery also didn't have an effect. +1 for the prepared marker, but -1 for the town. Now I'm going to calculate out the strength. So I put the lead unit on top for the defender, and that's 2, 4, 5 strength points. Over here we're going to be looking at 8 and 8. This is an allied unit, right? Is 16 strength points, which 16 to 5 puts me at 3-1 on the assault table. Now, for pluses and minuses, we'll lead with this one because it has 3 stars, which means I'm at +2. I have 2 tank groups, so +4, +6. +4. He's in good shape. Okay, so I'm at +4 on the 3-to-1, which is still a pretty good roll, I think. And at 9, that's going to be a 1-2D. I chose this as my lead. So he is going to go to a -3. He has to take that. The 2D means that these two units are going to get converted to remnants. I'll be back in a moment. Could have taken only one remnant and withdrawn a hex, but I feel like the defensive terrain here is of some importance. And remember, I'm trying to hold terrain. I'm not necessarily trying to keep units together. So that seems more valuable. Of course, and these guys are, remember, they got a disintegration. Oh, wait, they got a disintegration, big D, not lower than disorganized. That's what these came out as. But this guy took one as well, so he takes a level of shock. Because it's not just the lead unit that gets the disorganization unit, it's all. Okay. And so that's this. Let's take a look at this one. Here, like I said, I have like lots to 1. Puts me out here. Modifiers. +1 for combativeness. And -2 for the terrain. But +1 because he's disorganized, so we're just at even on the 6-to-1 there. So we'll do that attack. That's a 2. That's an XX2. I want X to be as low as possible because all that happens to this is it gets shocked. Oh, that 2 doesn't matter. It gets shocked. So we'll take the 1 hit here, and the Entente unit takes another hit. Now, I gotta be careful. These things only have so much gas in them. Once I hit 5, I'm a whacked unit. And now we hit here, and I think about this. Successful against this unit and pushed it forward, just attacking with the 1. I didn't look up the rule because, I don't know. This is the better lead unit. This one, that one's not bad either. Anyway, we used an X result to just deliver 1 hit. That created a retreat, though, instead of dropping it down to a weaker unit. But I want to get these guys moving in the same direction as these guys, so we'll look at that. Over here, I actually think I'm going to launch that attack. I've got a +1 due to, I'm at 3-to-2 like I said, but I got a +1 due to quality. And, you know, if I don't make the attack, I'm stuck there until I force those guys to dislodge, and I don't have anything that's really able to break through. So I'm hoping that they can bust their way through that ugliness. And I get a pretty damn good roll. Double X. This isn't particularly good terrain, so I think he'll probably fall back. Question is, do I want to take 2 hits or 1? And I'm not sure what the answer is there. But if he retreats, he unsticks me, and then I can use him in conjunction with maybe these units to try to bust through here or whatever. But I'm not facing the bad odds. So I'm not going to be a 9 anymore, no matter what number I pick. Which, I don't know. If I only pick a 1, all I do is reduce one of these and there's a bigger lead unit there, or he falls back and is in the same kind of position, which is probably what he'll do anyway. all the same, I think I'm going to just take a 1. Really happy with where the German units are in terms of their defensive position across the board. I did retreat there. And so I think I'm not doing any voluntary fallback. That means I'm on maneuver. Now, maneuver points is where, here they are. So is either 6 or 3, depending on, well, it's either 6 or 4 for the most part. The exception being the reforming unit, which I don't know why this guy is so far ahead. How did he get here? I don't know, but I'm not going to think too hard about it. I may have cheated to get him that far. No, he took a hit on a hasty attack, I think. At least that's the answer of why he's in that condition. And why this guy's so far behind is you just don't have that many points once you're tired. Okay, so, and ZOCs are completely sticky, like they're glue. The only way out of there is like voluntary fallbacks. You can't reposition once you're on the line. So I guess we start setting up again. The question becomes, hey, do I want to try to do hasty assaults? So here I can get a 6-1 against this. That seems pretty potent. But it's a hasty 6-1. Well, there's no reason to put prepared markers in play, because we're going to be going into the PM turn. So yeah, there's a slight reason, which is if we had defensive artillery to play, we could get the +1 bonus off that. By my reading of the rules, again, that's a little. There's conflicting ways of reading it. What's on the charts is different from what's in the rule book in at least one place. So 6-1 with no pluses. What's that like? Well, it looks like a good thing. So out of those 6 movement points, I spend 2 of them, and I don't actually need to do this with both. One of them is sufficient, but I think there's a potential advantage to putting these in there, and not really, because I can't advance with both units. So if I do this, there's a more interesting advantage. If this guy withdraws, I can go into here. This guy has a prepare marker, which is largely useless, but it'll allow me to move into this hex on my auto advance if he runs away or gets defeated. So I think that's a good idea. I can still use him in this attack. It's not going to count as a prepared, but it's kind of this, use of a prepared marker, not quite for its intention, but to give me an advance after combat. Yeah. Because I tend to work from the outsides in, and maybe, I'm moving things, some things I'm like, well, I know I want to move this here. I'm tilting counters to indicate that I've made my movement choice on them already. That's kind of important. Otherwise, you lose your position too easily, I think. A lot of these hasty assaults or hasty attacks, whatever. Oh, hi, friend. But then I get up here and things have gotten tricky there. I have a lot of problems. First of all, I've got tanks facing fucking ravine here. That, there's ravine everywhere except this hex. 1, 2, 3, 4. I could start to move them into that position. That might be the best I can do. At least it's the same command. Otherwise, it's really kind of tough to launch an attack. I could get a significant number of units poised to attack this unit, though. And that leaves me an opening here that I don't like. But does this make sense? So let's say I got everybody in there, and there'd be no tank advantage there. 9 and 9 is 18. Yeah, this is in range now. 18, 26 to 3. 26 to 3 is 8 to 1. I could probably get a 16 and 18 to 3, which would be a 6 to 1, and keep a unit loose, right? What did I say here? 9 and 9. 9 and 8 is 17. So if these two units combined on this, they can't really combine on this, I would have to deal with this unit or this unit. If these two units could combine on that, which they could make an attack. Basically, this guy can move his way here. 1, 2, 3. This guy can move here. And then maybe shift this guy back over to help cover the gap. That would give me a 6 to 1 on here. My combativeness there is just a 1. These guys are only 2s, I think. Check both of them. So I would be at a -1 on the 6 to 1. Now, a -1 on the 6 to 1 looks okay because I'll recover from this. And at least I might do some damage to the enemy. So the table looks decent. Not surprisingly, a 6 to 1 attack looks decent. Surprisingly, it doesn't look very decent. It doesn't look very decent up here either. You know, it's sufficient in this situation, but man, you begin to see, you know, how hard it is to gain ground, even in this game, in a period where you're thinking, wow, they made, you know, really impressive gains starting here, really. But yeah, they still required pausing, preparing the units, smashing. They're not gaining all that much. Do we have a scale on this? Yeah. So each hex is just a kilometer. So, yeah. And, you know, turns are half a day. We're still crawling forward. So after maneuver, that puts us here. Second, non-phasing voluntary fallback. I think I stand, even places where things feel kind of weak. I don't want to give it up without a fight, and the hasty attack table is not particularly damning. By the way, as I look at this, you know, the images, obviously these become very important because this is a very different kind of system. It's got some things especially having to do with those supply lines, retreat lines, and whatnot that really do need the examples. You read it and you're like, I don't know what he means. You know, they're correct and clear. It's just, it's different. You know, it's so different that you really do need them there because it's like not meeting expectations at all. Images, I got mixed views on images. I love these. They add so much to the flavor of you know, being able to see the World War I images as you're just flipping through. It just, to me, that adds a lot to the flavor. Reminds me of things like Advanced Third Reich, where they put the pictures in for the World War II stuff. And again, you know, they distract a little bit from what you're gaining, but yeah. Usually I'm not a big fan of lots of graphics in it, but the black and white pictures, I like those. I don't like lots of pictures of the board, but again, it's necessary here. Okay. I don't like glossy rule books though, but what can you do? What can you do? So we're set. I'm going to start making the attacks, and there's no bombardment that's going to take place for either side. And I'll just come back and report because there's not a hell of a lot else. You know, this could have retreated reasonably, but it's in such an important location comparatively. And if I'm lucky, I can move up here. It'll buy me a little bit of time. So yeah, I want to be there. So I got a 0-1D here, which dropped him to disorganized. And no, it didn't. Dropped him to reforming. Never going to remember that. Never going to remember that. Mainly because it's so easy to flip a counter, but yeah, reforming is like this weird middle step. Okay. So that was this attack. He chose to fall back rather than take a casualty because it doesn't really inhibit my line. Of course, falling back on one, then it can kind of snowball. This one's kind of interesting. So you'd think 1, 2, 3, 4, but that's not the case. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So let me check the supply line length. I think it is indeed 5 hexes, right? You'd think the length would be here. This is not longer than 4, so I don't know. That's supply line. I'm looking for command. Command path. No more than 4 hexes. Okay. What that means is I think I'm allowed to pick either unit as my lead. I don't know how much that matters. I'd better, because this guy... Okay, I'd swap them if I can't. So let's see if there's any special restrictions on lead. Because this guy's not in command, which means he's going to be halved. But he is part of the same command. So it's not that terrible. And I wonder if I could have moved in here. I don't know. I doubt it. You know, I actually think I could have. And that would have been in command for both of them. And the reason I split was because of this guy. I'm gonna move him into there. Because that way I'm both in command. Which means it doesn't matter which one I picked the little marker for. So here I have 7 and 8 is 15 to 3. Puts me at 5 to 1. Not very helpful there. And my modifiers, well, this is going to be lead, so it's +2 from here, because this is a good unit. +2 and +3 because he's disordered, but -2, so it's a +1 total, I think. This chart is easy enough that I feel like I can kind of remember it. You give me too big a chart of modifiers. I had a game recently. What the hell was it that I was playing? Oh, I know. It's the Austerlitz thing, where there's just these huge lists of modifiers for the check to stands and stuff. Although I'm beginning to learn them. So what did I said? I think it was +1, which is a 4. There's no effect whatsoever. Since these guys are going to be in a zone of control, I can just remove these markers and say that's that. Okay. And those tanks are going to start degrading, which is going to hurt my opportunities for moving forward. Here, this looks simple enough. I'm a 7 to 1. Switch dice because this one was hotter. 7 to 1. I'm at +1 for quality, +2 because he is, oh, he's shocked. +2 more, so that brings me to +3. Comes out to +1 due to the terrain as a net. I'm giving the running total there. 6, that's a 0-1D. Okay. Remnants have a problem. And I hope I didn't fuck up here. Okay. He takes no hits. This is taking a 1, which will be a second level of shock. A disorder, which is a third level of shock. Alright. But I think remnants are forced. Yeah, I think remnants are forced to retreat. I don't know where it is. Losses applied. If only remnants were defending and all defendants have been removed, losses are applied to remnants. Remnants cannot be destroyed and convert each loss result into an additional 1 hex retreat. Okay. For each such canceled loss, increase the CRT retreat level by 1. So actually that loss isn't there. This has to retreat, and a retreat marker's there. This guy didn't take any losses, so he's fine. The disorder level does apply as a shock. You could get flung way back with a remnant, for whatever that matters. Let's take a look at this one. I have 8 to, I don't know what it said, it better be a -1. 8 to 2, that puts me at 4 to 1. At +2, +4, +5, and no terrain. This is not such a good place. I probably should have considered falling back from it, but it's kind of helping me hold the whole line, so I don't know. What was it, +5? Okay, that's a 0-1 big D. Big D means has to be at least disordered, right? Where's big D? Not lower than disorganized. Okay, what was it? 0-1 big D. Big D gives me, I'm looking for a shock ×2, gives me a shock marker. If I retreat, I take another shock. If I don't retreat, I become a remnant. I'm going to take the retreat and take that second level of shock there. This is going to be hard to recover from, though. I'm going to be, at best, reforming, and that's assuming that these guys don't advance right up against me during the night. Okay. Here I'm declaring attacks against both of these. I don't know if I actually want to do them. I'm going to have to think. If I only do one, I can't throw this in. If I do both, that can be thrown into one of the attacks, which I probably want to do into the town rather than into there. This costs more to move, so I think I'm probably going to launch those attacks. The battery charger problems, it's not staying as red as it should. Okay. So, the weather outside is annoying. It's like 44% humidity and hot. I'm used to high humidity here, but not on hot days. It's really kind of this oppressive feeling. Okay. So looking at this set of attacks, I want to make this attack first because I'm thinking about throwing these two in. So making this gives me flexibility to choose about those two. So here I have 12 with tanks to 2. So that's going to be 6 to 1. Quality +1. Tanks +2 +3. Defender is shocked. So that's +4 +5. I'm going to get a pretty good result here. Plus I'm making him decide, whether to retreat this or not before he sees the results on the more important location, which may degrade that more important location. Okay, so that's a 1-2D. The 1's a definite hit. Nothing I can do about that. No, I lost my place. He takes 2. Well, 1 drops it to a remnant. It's already a shaken remnant. I'm only allowed to get rid of one of the combat losses with a non-remnant unit. The remnants just scattered fast and hard. So that was 1 hit. Now I take 1 more hit. That'll be the retreat. So I'll put the retreat there, push him back. And that was the 2nd hit. Now I take a D, which is going to put another level of shock on there. Does that make sense? I think so. I think that's it. That means I have enough to play both of these, I guess. And let me make sure. 1, 2, 3, 4. Shit. I'm not in supply with this guy. Which means he's going to be only 4 strength points. But this guy is 12, so that's 16 to 2. That puts me at 8 to 1, good enough. I've got to check whether I can use this as my lead unit even though it's not in supply. I seem to remember something that disallowed that. Man, not supply. If you're not in supply, you're retreating because you're isolated. Okay, so yeah, I can't use him. So that means I only have a 1-star advantage. This is shaken. +2 for him being shaken brings me to a 3-star advantage. Or to a +3. But the town drops that to a +1. Yeah, the advances can't happen. They don't cut off the line. You get to make all attacks. You make all attacks before you start making advances, so you don't get like these partial. Some games allow this where you get a break in the line and you can put some units in and that'll improve your combat odds with the next roll in the combat just because you've cut a unit off or whatever. And here it would just mean that you'd flee, but it doesn't work that way. So +1 net, eh? Oh boy. 0, 1, D. Okay. Well, the D does this. The 1 is the question. I think I want to try to hold that hex, so I am going to convert to a remnant. So what do I get out of the remnant? I end up with only 1 level of shake on me because the remnant has a shake marker of its own. And that means this guy gets rid of his, we get rid of these markers because they didn't successfully gain a hex. So they're not going to be able to advance. Oh boy. And then I got 1 last attack here. I don't know. Well, let's do this one because I want to show at least one thing. This guy had the attack marker. This guy didn't have points to put a marker down. So that's 9, and 9 is 18. He's allowed to be in there. That's 6 to 1. I can't use him as the lead. Yeah, I can. It doesn't really matter. I'll use him. I'm at +1. +1. And +1 for the RFM. That's +2. However, that gets canceled out by either the city or the ravine. They can't both counted together, although forest and ravine can. I get a grand total of 2. That's basically no result, which means this goes away. I couldn't add the tanks in because of the ravine, so I did that right this time. Yeah, the real problem, it's not like I'm not aware of the tank ravine situation. The real problem had to do with not being able to see what was going on as I set up. And I, I just could not afford to restart in my mind. So that's low intensity. Now we go to advance. And we skim our way forward. I could push this forward another hex. I've got a few options here. One of them is to move into here, which would cause him a boatload of problems. And I think I want to do that. So I move into here on my advance, and that's going to cause an involuntary retreat here, I believe. Let's just make sure, yeah. Because this is my zone of control. This is my zone of influence. He's not allowed to trace his supply line anything other than straight back, and there's a zone of control in there. So I'm forced back. I could go back further, and look for better terrain, but I think I want to keep distance there. And that this guy used up his advance on that. This guy's part of this other command here. I think I'll keep him a little separated from it. Well, I mean, I'm going to have to advance into here. Sure. Okay. And that was only a 1 hex advance. Don't give me grief. This guy, I don't know. Here there's nothing here. Here it's particularly interesting because I can advance here and here because I used a prepare marker. The prepare marker technically stays. I'll leave it on. And I think I had one on another unit. I think this guy had a prepare marker on him. Not sure. Okay. Oh, I know that guy did not. And let's keep looking. Here's my one last. So that's just a remnant. But he could reinforce it fairly easily. And that's kind of the issue here. Unfortunately, this is my command. I'll move him there, I think. Am I leaving a gap? Then, you know what? I'm just going to leave him here. Because I don't want to leave that gap, but I also don't want to commit to making the attack there yet. I think. See, if I don't move here, I can't be a prepared assault. Not this turn, but overnight. You only get 5 movement points at night. Oh no, good order gets 8. Sure. It costs 5 to convert, so I'm safe back here. Okay. That's the advance. End of operations. That's going to put it over on the German side of the turn. I'm tired again. So I am going to rest. The designer mentions that because of the way this situation is, and that the Germans basically have very little in the way of potential counterattacks, and they're so restricted in, you know, their retreat paths and stuff like that, that this actually makes a particularly good solitaire game. And I'm not going to dispute that, because it actually, it doesn't for me. I would rather play this opposed, and in some ways would rather play it opposed more. I prefer this kind of thing, but I prefer most games that are designed for solitaire opposed. So I see something that's similar to that, which is that there's this complicated puzzle on each Entente turn. And then for the German defense, there's sort of, yep, I'll fall back here, I'll fall back here. Now, personally as a player, I prefer the role the Germans are in. That's the role I would rather play in a game like this. Although I would not mind playing this opposed as the Entente. What I don't like doing is playing it solo. I don't know why. It just feels too much like a puzzle against the system when I'm trying to figure out the opposed play of it. And, you know, I don't know. There's just something fucked up and weird about me in this sort of way. But what I've found is that if I'm playing a designed for solo game, I would rather play it as a pair, trying to make decisions, or play it and I be the system and let somebody else actually do the play, or the other way around. And this kind of feels like that. It almost feels like the Germans are a system. They're not completely limited, but it's close enough that, you know, you're not gonna be able to. It's fairly easy to see what their decisions are going to be. I just can't face making even that level of decisions at this point after the amount of effort that I've spent trying to do the Entente turn. After this video, I'm going to pull back a lot and only jump in when things are kind of interesting. But, you know, like if I find a new thing or a discussion of after partway through the turn, maybe a couple times a turn, I'll come on and just say, okay, well, here's where the movements were in the attacks, and this is what the result is, and stuff like that. Highlight the lack of capabilities that the Germans have, at least at this point in the game, but I think it's in general because the Entente's going to keep pressure on. First of all my running down until I hit maneuver phase, nothing happens. There's just nothing that can happen at this point. There's not going to be any assaults, nothing along those lines. Okay. Beyond that, though, I could pull these two artillery units back. What else can I move? Well, I can't move any of the retreating units. The units that are sitting in good locations, I don't want to retreat. I don't want to fall back with them. When I look at a unit like this, which maybe I want to... So I look at these units that are reforming. I'd like to pull them back and recover them, but, you know, I would have had to do that during the Entente turn, and I kind of don't... I'm not sure that I absolutely want to, but looking at the situation now, after the advance, I might have wanted to pull back after the advance happened. But I don't at this moment, or I'm not able to at this moment, and I didn't before the advance happened. It was only the advance that showed that up. So I've got things like this. I got this disordered unit here, but he's in pretty good terrain. Now I could push him forward. Is that what I want? Yeah, you know, maybe. A town is as good as anything else. I could, of course, throw him into here and strengthen this defensive hex. But yeah, I think I'm going to push forward here. That gives me a little bit more space. This unit, I could push forward. And that also may not be a bad idea. I can't get him to here because he's reforming, so he only has 3 movement points, which wouldn't get me that far. But okay, I'll push him forward. But yeah, there's just not a lot of units that I have the capability to do anything with. Non-phasing player, he's not going to fall back. Second bombardment, no attacks, no advances because I didn't drop any. Well, now see this now because I can't put a. The expense of putting a prepared marker is more than the expense of just moving forward. So there's no edge there. That's only to take advantage of combat or advances. Phasing player removes all his retreat markers. Well, this is the thing that was preventing me from shifting a lot of units that I kind of wanted to move. And I'll rotate these back. Although I might want to do other things. And now it's nighttime. Entente division removals. I could search through all my units, see if any of them are a half strength or less. I know that they're not at this point, but yeah. Tank attrition. All my tanks drop 1 level. And that's going to significantly reduce my capabilities of... Why is he all the way over here? Wow. I mean, I know I wanted to move him this way, but now he's locked in combat with his tank there. I don't know. German remnant. Okay. 2 remnants have to come off the map. I have to think carefully about this, because I also get the German night operations, which includes the regimental reforming. In command regiments could be put together. So I have a couple here. So I'm going to pull this remnant out. He's not helping that much. I think this one's going to go. It's either that one or that one. And I feel like this one's doing a better job. Either way, I'm creating a weakness, but these are stronger positions up here overall. So I'll take this one off as well. He's got all that shock on him. So those just disappear. Night mutual artillery. Okay, now we finally look to see how much night artillery we have, and that is 2 medium and 2 heavy. There's not going to be any air. And for the Germans, they get a medium, and that's it. Night mutual bombardment. Okay, now I make some thinking as to, hey, what do I want to beat up on a little bit? But remember, we haven't done sort of the recovery aspects of the game, the disruption, recovery, etc., which is what the bombardment does, is it adds more disruption to places. Now, what's going to happen there is if you're in a zone of control, disruption goes down by 1. And this doesn't say not in a zone of control, but that's what it is. If you're not in a zone of control, it's 2 or 3. So, you know, unless something's really beat up already, it's not going to really help to drop more explosives on it. Limitation to how much explosive I can drop on a single hex. It's 3 + 1 air, which is kind of annoying because I got 4 points for the Entente. My first thought was to drop a couple of points onto this one. I think it was, because I was going to send this unit, is it part of this command? Yeah. Over this way, and just try to bust my way through over there with the armor and whatnot. The armor hitting into here, this unit covering and helping. If I have enough movement points, I'm not sure if I do. Nighttime, I have 8 movement points. Unfortunately, that would be 2, 4, and 5 isn't going to work. But I could go this way. No, this has a zone. Yeah, I don't know. I could come down to here and try to attack in this way, but then that makes it so that I don't have the attack that I want over here. Ugh. All very painful. So if I'm not going to be able to get the attack on him, then I'm kind of screwed. Well, I can get it from here, like I said. Yeah. So there's a couple of hexes I want to hit. This I think I can handle. This is a big stack of units. That's 4 strength points. That seems like a lot. That's going to be kind of hard for me to dislodge, but maybe not that hard. So I'm going to drop 3 points on this and 1 there in the hopes of getting additional disruptions on that whole stack. For the Germans, they have a single artillery, and I haven't put any thought into that, so I'll back off from that for a little bit. Germans, the problem is probably the best I can do is get a big D. It's not very likely. I only have 1 point. These were fired off. Where do I kind of want to hit? Let's just do it up here. I don't know, because this guy's there. I'm going to just lose this, am I not? Yeah. Geez. Although I do get some movement. I got to take a look at the ordering. So after any movement, things is when recovery happens, and there's a big hole up here. I'm just losing ground in the center, and there's no question about that. Oh boy. More tanks coming in. So I'm at a -1 to the die roll because it's night turn, which means this is the best result I can get as long as I don't attack terrain and as long as I attack something that's adjacent to one of my units. And there aren't a whole lot of options that kind of fit into all of that. So I don't know. It all just kind of doesn't matter. I'll just drop it here. It's a medium artillery, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I think it was 5 hexes for this. We'll do that. Now the actual bombardments take place. This is a 1 point with a -1 for the nighttime. Not good enough. This one is 3 points, but it's at -2 total. Like it's a 2, that's going to give me a big D. A big D here will be an additional level of disruption. And that's it. Okay. Not a lot of effect there, but first non-phasing voluntary fallback. Okay. I could fall back from here, but again, that puts the retreat marker on me, which means what? It means I can't withdraw easily. I could fall back all the way back to here, where there's some good terrain. Let me start looking at some of the pieces and see if I have to give that ground up. I think I'm best off not, but just because there's so much terrain I'd be giving up. So I could do a fallback 1, 2, and then I'm allowed to divert on the last hex. Mixed call because the Entente gets the first movement. So I'm looking at a situation like this. Well, these guys aren't going to leave, but this guy could march in and threaten this. And that might be able to bash me forward quite a few hexes. Is that better or worse than me falling back right now into, one of those 2 hexes? I don't know. Because if I fall back into those hexes, then there's movement allowed. 1, 2, 7. I can make a prepared assault on this further hex. So the defensive position here is good. Now, if I leave this guy here, that's not terribly helpful. But although it does prevent too many units clustering on it, I've already got 2 hitting it. If I move him into here, what does that open up for me? Well, that opens up a wide enough gap that we're starting to get to a danger of isolation. It's not really the case because we're anchored over here. That's pretty good. So I could strengthen this. That would give me another strength point in there. That might be for the best. In which case, I don't want to fall back. And it's better if I don't fall back if I just want to maneuver around. Like this guy can just maneuver around, which, you know, seems like a better move than a fallback. So I think we're not doing any of that, which means now we're on... Oh, wait, remnants can't move. Oh, shit. Oh, shit. So maybe falling back is the better option. I'm going to look at the command structure. This is this core, I believe. It's kind of lagging because the artillery, the headquarters is so far behind. It'll be in range though. I just don't know. You know, I'm not sure it makes a damn bit of difference. But I won't get my full recovery if I don't back up. So why don't I back up to there? Put the retreat marker on him. I think the rest will stay where they are. And now we go to the Entente maneuver. And they're going to get 8 movement points at night for most of the units. And... Wait, what was this? This is not right. Maneuver. All except retreating, shocked, spent, and remnants, but not disorganized or reforming. I really feel unhappy about this reforming, which is like not quite as bad as disorganized. The name of that and the fact that it requires a counter where disorganized doesn't is really causing me issues. I've forgotten to fire at him. So on a 6 I get something. Yeah. Okay. Well, this was painful, but I've pushed forward, thrown a lot of prepared markers down pretty much everywhere I could. These guys can't. I would have really liked to, but they only have 4 movement points. It costs 5 to do a prepared attack at this point in time, and I can't pull out. So they're just there. I guess I could put just as a... Let me check. Where's the movement point costs? Yeah, I could put a low intensity or improvised attack marker on this, which would give me an advance opportunity if he pulls out of there. And there may be somewhere else I could do that. This guy, I think, had to move all the way up. To some extent, I don't really necessarily need prepared markers. For example, here I've got 2 of them. Only one of these units actually needs it. These guys are out of supply, or out of command. That's the problem with them. I'm having trouble getting my headquarters up there. So now it's second player, voluntary fallback. This would be my chance to break the line of attack that's being performed on me. These are, the prepped attacks. I could run away from here, and, it's hard to tell. Do I want to? Do I not? This is important location, and I will be able to get a better unit in there through, maybe not, in command point, and it'll be disorganized. And this one is a particularly, like, I can sort of conceive of this, right? In a lot of cases I can't. So this would be a 2-point unit because there's 2 remnants there, and it would be disorganized according to this. It's going to be reforming at best, so I think it's okay to leave them where they are up at the front. I'm looking elsewhere. This whole line is pretty fucking shaky. But if I pull out of here, what am I doing? I think it's worth it for this. I think I can't hold. This is just a remnant, right? Yeah. I think I can't hold that. And now I've got a cleaner, or a clean enough bulge that I'm creating there. Am I in trouble here? No, because my zones of control prevent the threat zone from making it here. And I feel pretty comfortable with the rest of the units. Okay, but now units that have prepare markers are able to advance a hex. And this is where the problem is that now the Entente gets to bring more force into play against this unit than they would have if I had stayed up there. Plus I grabbed the city. Looking to see if I have any other loose units. Again, the colors are so close to each other that my mind does not quickly discern whose piece it is. They're visible. You can distinguish between them, but very easily. But the brain just sees those kind of muted colors, and I don't know. Mine at least does not work well on them. Okay. End of operations. I'm not going to have any retreat markers there. So now we go to the German operations at night. I'm not going to fall back. I may have some maneuvering to do. Primarily, I'm looking at this guy. He's loose. The artillery units, I probably want to keep falling back with them, stuff like that. Movement for the Germans. I moved the headquarters back. I shifted a unit over here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. I guess I could put a preliminary attack. By the way, this is gone. Right? I don't know if it's actually removed. I don't see it here. You know, I don't think I'm allowed to place it. Although, over here, it stretches into the nighttime. The thing is, it would make sense if the enemy withdrew to be able to place that, so you get the advance movement. But I think unless you're preparing, you're not going to get the advance movement in the night phase. I'm not sure. The chart seems somewhat ambiguous compared to other. Like the combination of the charts makes it seem ambiguous. I put prepared markers on a couple of German units that didn't move. Those are going to give me advantages on the artillery fire, but most of the German units are at least in reforming or worse state, so I don't have enough movement points to do so. Still not going to fall back. The thing is, if I do a fallback, I'm not prepared to attack next turn. And I can't move and I can't do anything. So it's really hard to disengage. All the retreat markers come off. Adjust the operations marker on the turn track. Hey, this should have already been adjusted. I think that means that moves. I'm not sure. Except that we should be doing these things first. Mutual disruption recovery. Okay. I gotta swap batteries. It's kind of a painful process because I have to pick through each unit. And somewhere or another, the artillery units recover. Oh, they do in the morning. Okay. No harm in that. So I've got to look through each unit. This guy's fine. This guy, okay, he's at range 1, or he's in a zone of control, so he recovers his 1 point of reforming. This guy's fine. I'll flip these over now. It's not the time to do it. So this guy will recover at least 2, maybe 3. So I need a d6 of 4 or more to fully recover, I think it is. I don't get that, which means that I recover to this level. You see what I mean? The reforming should be the first step. First step should be flipping it over, instead of the first step being the additional counter. Then you take the counter away and flip it over, and then you add more counters on. That's just mechanically and conceptually too complicated. This guy, he is at disordered. He can only go up to reforming, and part of the problem is that you have to fish for the ones that have reforming. Most, some of them have 2 shock on the back or whatever. This one's fine. This guy was reforming, so he recovers. We really have to paw through everything too, because we don't know if there's something hidden under. Now okay, so this has to roll again, and because he's got a shaken on him. Okay, so he goes all the way up, I believe. Oh, wait. No, he's got 2 shakes. So 1 shaken comes off. 1 shaken comes off. He would actually get rid of the disordered as well, except he's a remnant and he can't. Same situation. I don't need to roll for these. They're remnants. They can't go that high. And I keep pawing through. This only recovers 1 level, so it remains shocked, not shaken. This only recovers 1 level. Recovers from a reform. These can't recover. What's under here? Under where? Ha ha ha. Okay. Are these all the same color? They're not. Okay. So that's the mutual disruption recovery. I think I covered all that. German regimental reformation. Now I look for these. I've got a pair here, which gets me 2 strength points, disordered here. And did I manage to get a pair together anywhere else? I don't think so. that is the end of the night. Now this actually is over here, even though it told me to do it earlier. That's again copy and paste from the daytime stuff, make some corrections, but didn't move the, hey, where do you do that? We made it through a whole turn. This was a pretty heavy set of both mechanical and other factors to get me, through this. It just, I don't mind so much the mechanical aspects of it, although where it's clunky, like the reform markers instead of the disorganized being on the counter, is a little disturbing. And again, I think that may be done because of the remnants having disorganized on the counter, but I would find that easier to cope with than all the regular units having to deal with this kind of mechanically complex, more disturbing, and mentally as well. But the mental, you can add that extra burden where, hey, the remnants are always on the disorganized side to begin with. But, they've got a shock side on them as well. So that in and of itself is almost as discordant as what I'm suggesting, which is to get to put the backside of every unit to be a reform marker and have the disorders on these. And yeah. But the biggest thing that's been affecting me is sort of the, hey, what are the consequences of my actions type of problem, which, the concepts behind this feel as complicated as when I was first approaching wargaming with the sort of that 70s era war game, maybe early 70s, the AH Classic style type game, where it's really hard to grasp, hey, how do you make these kind of attacks? How do you set it up so that you can, get enough strength on a unit that you can attack it if it means soaks and stuff like that? This is presenting you with that problem all anew, and things like, how do I defend a territory with those kind of rules, where it really took me looking at a wargaming book to learn hey, your strongest defense in a lot of these games is every other hex. Even if you're not making each hex stronger, simply because making each hex is stronger, but every other hex, which didn't seem intuitive to me. Intuitive to me seemed like a solid front line, right? There's troops everywhere. There's not these big gaps that you could roll through. Well, those gaps aren't really there, but the concept that they're not there wasn't apparent to me when I first started playing. And it didn't even strike me, because I'm just here playing solitaire and not playing against people who kind of understood that. And I'm not the smartest cookie in the book. All right, let's send this up. And wow, that was a lot more fatiguing than I expected it to be. That's all I have to say.